Hi, Assalamualaikum and welcome again to my lecture on topic of allocation of support activity cost. Okay, in this chapter we're going to look at the allocation from the support activity or from the service department to the main department in a company. Okay, so for the learning objective 1, okay, it's allocate the service department cost using the direct method and the step down method. So in allocating the service department cost, we have two approach that we can use to allocate the cost from the service department to the main department or the production department, which are the direct method and the step down method. Service department cost allocation. We want to know how are service department costs charged to the production department. So in allocating the service department costs, okay, first what we need to do is we need to identify the factor that drives cost in the service department. So we call this as allocation base, or sometimes we call as a part of the cost driver. Okay, so in determining the cost driver, maybe talk of a cause, okay, and a cause and effect. Okay, this cause of the cost or the reason the cost changes, so it is called as the cost driver, which is used as the allocation base or basis. Next, service department cost allocation, okay, which is from the service department. Okay, service department will support the main departments in a company, which is the production departments. Okay, so service department, okay, will provide support that facilitate the activities of the production department. Okay, this is what will be carried out by the service department, which is it supports activities of production department, whereby the production department will carry out the central purpose of an organization. Okay, without the service department in a company, we cannot successfully manage the production department. So we provide here one of the example. Okay, we look at the maintenance department in an automobile plant. Okay, so with the maintenance departments in an automobile plant does not make automobiles. Okay, they don't produce the automobiles, but if it did not exist, okay, the maintenance department did not exist, the production process will stop when the manufacturing machines broke down. So with the maintenance department, it will support the production department, okay, whereby we're going to fix the machine breakdown. Okay, so the maintenance department is crucial to the production operation, even though the repair personnel do not work directly on the products. Okay, that's how the service department support the production department. Service department cost allocation. So how are service department costs charged to production departments? Okay, we know that the service department will support the main department or the production department in a company. And then we want to know how are the service department costs charged to the production department. So we measure the consumption of the allocation base in the production department. So as each of the department use the service provider, and then the cost should rise proportionately according to the amount that is used. So we will have the proportion that we're going to determine in determining the service cost that we're going to charge. And then what we need to do is reallocate the service department cost based on the relative amount of the allocation base consumed in each department. Service department cost allocation, still on this subtopic. Okay, what happens to service department costs after they are allocated to production departments? Okay, allocated service department costs become a part of the manufacturing overhead in each production department. Okay, so this will be a part of the cost of the product. Okay, and again, the goal of cost allocation is to ensure, okay, that all costs incurred by the organization ultimately are assigned to its final products or services. Next, okay, so they become a part of the overhead that is applied to products with a predetermined overhead rate. So allocated the service department costs become a part of the manufacturing overhead in each production department. Then the costs become a part of the finished product via the application of the predetermined factory overhead rate. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so we're going to look at the flow chart. Okay, from here we will provide the summarize. Okay, from the conversation between these two parties. Okay, so we have here, okay, three service department, which are the cafeteria, accounting, and also personnel. And okay, so we know this as the service department costs are allocated to production department, which is from the cafeteria, accounting, and personnel. And for the main department, we have the production department under the machining, and another one is assembly. Okay, so the first stage the service department costs are allocated to production department, and the second stage allocation, production department overhead costs plus, okay, allocated service department, production department overhead costs plus allocated service department costs are applied to products using departmental predetermined overhead rates. So in this slide, you can see that we have the example of the service department that support the main department or the production department in a company. So we have another situation here. Okay, we have the cost incurred in a hospital's human resource department allocated to all departments that have personnel. even the human resource department is not the main department in a hospital, because we know that in a hospital they have the another department like the outpatient department. However, the human resource department is one of the service department that will support the main department in a hospital. Next, we look at the selecting the allocation base. So these are among the typical allocation base that we're going to use in allocating the service department, okay, from the service department. So we have here personnel, number of employees, receiving, units handled, and for the security, it is based on the square footage. For the accounting, based on the staff hours. For the power, based on the kilowatt hours. Cafeteria, number of employees. Custodial, same as the security, which is based on the square footage. And then we look at the selecting the still on the selecting the allocation base, that we will consider, okay, the criteria for the selection here in terms of the simplicity, in terms of availability of space or equipment, benefits received of the production department. So different service, okay, different service department, we have the same or similar cost driving characteristics, okay. So for example, the both of the personnel department and cafeteria, okay, the personnel here, the personnel and the cafeteria, okay, it is based on the number of employees. So in this case, it is possible to simplify the allocation by pooling these costs. And then we have the custodial and security, okay, it is based on the using the same base, okay, the cost driver here, which is square footage. And another one is based on the benefits is we look here, it is based on the receiving units handles, and also based on the power kilowatts hours. And then, okay, now we look at the interdepartmental services. Okay, so one problem that accountant face when allocating is one service department might supply service to another service department, okay, and indeed may actually consume some of its own services. So here we have the example, okay, the power department that supplies electricity to service departments, production departments, and even consumes some of its own electricity. So, okay, still on the issue of the interdepartmental services, so the problem is allocating costs when service department provide service to each other. So here we will use the direct method and step down method, okay, the two methods that we're going to apply. Okay, now we look first at the direct method. So under the direct method, okay, each service department's costs are allocated among only the department that consume part of the service department's outputs. Okay, under this method, okay, the direct method ignores the fact that some service departments provide service to other service departments. Thus, even though one department might provide service to two other service departments, none of its costs are allocated to those departments. So when we apply the direct method, so the cost between the service department will be ignored. Okay. So next we look at the step down method. Okay. So as we know that, okay, in previous slide we discussed on the direct method that ignores the provision of service by one service department to another service department, and hence we will apply the step down method, okay, whereby it will consider, okay, the cost between the service department. So under this method, the managerial accountant first choose a sequence in which to allocate the service department. Okay, so under the step down method, we do not ignore the cost between the service department. Okay, we will consider the cost. So how to allocate? Okay, so as the accountant will choose a sequence in which to allocate the service cost. So a common way to select the first service department in the sequence is to choose the one that serves the largest number of other service department. Which one is served more, then we will allocate first. So the departments are ordered in this manner, which the last service department being the one that serves the smallest number of other service departments. Okay, so then, okay, the accountant allocates each service department's cost among the custodial and all of the other service department that follow it in sequence. So once the service departments have been allocated, no further costs are assigned. So you can see here, we only have one direction here. Okay, one direction here. So the other cost from the custodial to the cafeteria will be not assigned. Okay, so note that the ultimate cost allocation assigned to the assembly. Okay, we have the assembly, the main department here, the assembly and machinery department will differ depending on the sequence chosen. Okay, so once the cost of the cafeteria is allocated, the custodial department then assign its cost to the production departments. Okay, next on the learning objective 2, okay, we're going to use a dual approach to service department cost allocation. Okay, so fixed versus variable cost. So what is the problem here in allocating common fixed costs using a variable activity allocation base? Since we not distinguish, okay, between the fixed and variable cost of the service department. Under some circumstances, the simple approach can result in an unfair cost allocation among the using departments. So when fixed costs are allocated using a variable activity, sometimes strange result can occur. If a particular department has a decrease in its activity, it is allocated a proportionally lower share of cost. But because the costs are fixed and the total cost remains the same, other departments must share more of the fixed costs that remain. This results in other departments being charged more cost because the other departments had a decrease in its activity. So the problem is allocating the common fixed cost using a variable activity allocation base, and the solution here is we have to use a dual allocation method, which is the allocating the fixed and variable costs separately. So we have the dual allocation cost where we separate between the variable cost and the fixed cost. So we charge to production department at the budgeted rate times actual short run usage of the allocation base. Well, for the fixed cost, we allocate the budgeted amounts to operating department in proportion to the long run average usage of the allocation base. We look at the example of the dual cost allocation. Okay, so the company Simco has a maintenance department and two production departments, cutting and assembly. Variable maintenance costs are budgeted at 0.6 per machine hour. Fixed maintenance costs are budgeted at $200,000 per year. And the data relating to the current year are, so it's provided to you the proportion, okay, 60% from the cutting for the long run maintenance usage and the actual hour use. So allocate the maintenance cost to the two operating departments. So, okay, the cutting department used 80,000 hours at 60 cents an hour for an allocation of 48,000. Okay, here. And the assembly is allocated at $24,000. Okay, this is the rate applied here. That's for the variable. And for the fixed cost, 60% out of the 200,000, 120. And then for the 40% out of 200,000 will be $80,000 for assembly department. So it had allocate the variable cost based on the hour use, and the fixed costs are allocated based on the long run average usage. Okay, so we have another issue here on the behavioral problem. So the department managers may underestimate long run average usage to reduce the fixed cost allocation. And what will be the solution for this issue is we reward the manager for making accurate estimates of long run average service department. Right, so that's all for chapter on the topic of the allocation of support activity costs. Okay, hope you get a better understanding on this topic. Okay, thank you.